The greatest trick Robert Eggers ever pulled was marketing Nosferatu as a vampire movie, when it is so obviously a movie. Yes, another one. I'm Iele Neverday, and at the end of this video, I will be grading 2024's Nosferatu on its folklorical accuracy. Along the way, we'll learn about an Egyptian goddess, lilacs, sylphs, seven-pointed stars, demons, and naturally, supernaturally, cats. Let's take a look. Every Robert Eggers movie features a witch. I won't die on this hill, but I will kneel on it and scream. There's 2015's The Witch, that one's obvious. 2019's The Lighthouse, Mermaid Witch. 2022's The Northman, Bjork Witch. And Anya Taylor-Joy's Olga is basically a white witch as well. 2024 Nosferatu, here at last we find a modern witch. Yes, the film is set in 1838, but when we compare Lily Rose Depp's Ellen Hutter to the rest of Robert Eggers' Witches Gallery, Ellen is the only one who lives in an urban center. This was a big departure from Robert Eggers' The Witch and The Lighthouse especially, where isolation was an essential component of both of those stories. Here we have a woman with demon summoning abilities who isn't piddling around with dark magic out in the woods, she's in London. Sorry, Wisburg. And her supernatural actions, or desires I suppose, have dangerous repercussions not only for herself and for her husband, but for friends and perfect strangers as well. Fortunately for humanity, as Willem Dafoe's Professor Albin Eberhard von Franz explains, Ellen has the power to stop the vampiric plague spreading throughout the town. And I quote, "In heathen times, you might have been a great priestess of Isis, yet in this strange and modern world, your purpose is of greater worth. You are our salvation." So the heathen times would have been better for Ellen, but her life is worth more now? Says the dude coercing her into sacrificing herself to a bloodthirsty demon. Worse things have been done to witches, of course, historically speaking, says the guy from Massachusetts. Now, for those of you who disagree with my initial premise that Ellen in Nosferatu is a witch, consider Professor von Franz's reference to Ellen serving as a priestess in the cult of the Egyptian goddess Isis. Isis is a goddess of magic, healing, marriage, and protection who, in Egyptian mythology, uses her spells to germinate seeds and bring forth fruit. She also happens to be the daughter of Geb, the earth god, and Nut, the sky goddess. Remember the sky goddess thing for later. And if English Egyptologist E.A. Wallace Budge's 1885 book The Dwellers on the Nile is to be trusted, which in general it shouldn't be, but in this case I've found some corroboration, quote, "The festivals and processions of Isis were everywhere most popular, and were enjoyed by learned and unlearned alike. In fact, the Isis play was acted annually in November," end quote. This play recreates Isis putting her dead and dismembered brother/husband Osiris back together again, resurrecting him, and producing for him an heir, Horus. Speaking of November ceremonies that feature feminine figures wielding the power of life and death, we see that in the movie, with the woman on the white horse and the staking of the body. In Eggers' script, and in the movie's extended cut, Bill Skarsgård's Count Orlok actually explains what's going on here. Quote, "Yesternight was but the eve of their St. András. Our common people say it is the darkest witching night when devil's magic bids the wolf to speak with tongues of men, and every nightmare freely treads upon this earth, ascendant from the torturous grave." Nice. And thanks to Orlok's explanation, we know exactly when Nicholas Hult's Thomas Hutter arrives in Transylvania, November 29th. That is the eve of St. András, or in English, St. Andrew's Eve. In Eastern Europe, St. Andrew's Eve, as Orlok noted, has long been associated with witchcraft and divination, so its inclusion here could perhaps be another hint toward our primary protagonist, Ellen, being a witch. Or perhaps it's a hint toward a different character's witchiness. We'll get into it. Regardless, in Orlok's description of Ellen, he directly accuses her of being a non-human enchantress. And he packages this accusation in your classic Darvo, deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender manipulation tactic. Just look at the way this bloodsucker, this literal vampire, flips the script on Ellen. Quote, "It is not me, deny. It is your nature. Love is inferior to you. I told you, you are not of humankind. Attack, Over centuries, a loathsome beast, I lay within the darkest pit, till you did wake me, enchantress, and stirred me from my grave. You are my affliction, reverse victim and offender. Of course, if we presume Orlok is engaging in gaslighting here, it's hard to trust what he's saying about Ellen being not of humankind and an enchantress. Fortunately for us, there are other characters who apply intriguing labels to Ellen. Simon McBurney's Air Knock calls her a, quote, Nonpareil, almost a Sylph. Let me tackle those in order. Calling Ellen a Nonpareil makes for a fun double entendre. On the one hand, a Nonpareil is a person who has no equal in something. In the script, Eggers specifies that Knock calls Ellen a Nonpareil of beauty. But by dropping that of beauty at the end, the character is able to conjure the second meaning of Nonpareil, which is a chocolate disc covered in tiny little sprinkles. Get it? Ellen is the candy, and Orlok wants to nom nom nom. The term Sylph, meanwhile, has implications that are much more pertinent to our present topic. A Sylph is an elemental spirit, particularly one associated with the air. This, according to the Swiss alchemist and philosopher Paracelsus. In his posthumously published 1566 work, A Book of Nymphs, Sylphs, Pygmies, and Salamanders, and on the Other Spirits, Paracelsus groups Sylphs with other air-dwelling spirits, including what he calls Sylvestres, or forest people. Romanian folklore, incidentally, features a character who fits pretty snugly into Paracelsus's elemental air spirit box as well. Meet the Iele, seductive female spirits who are known to inhabit both the sky and forests. The American anthropologist Walter Evans Wentz described them thusly in 1909. Quote, among the Romanian peoples, there is widespread belief in the Iele. These Iele wait at crossroads and near dwellings, or at village fountains, or in fields and woods, where they can best cast on men and women various maladies. Sometimes they fall in love with beautiful young men and women, and have on such occasions even been controlled by their mortal lovers. They are extremely fond of music and dancing, and many a shepherd with his pipes has been favored by them, though they have their own music and songs too. End quote. First off, casting maladies on people, classic witch behavior. Second off, being controlled by their mortal lovers, that is the cause of, and solution to, Ellen's demon affliction. While Ellen reaches out into the darkness, seeking to cure her loneliness, the Nosferatu responds by seeking to control her. By putting herself under Thomas's control through marriage, Ellen is able to psychically/emotionally shield herself from the Nosferatu's influence, after she cites being with Thomas as what's keeping her darker impulses at bay. And as soon as he's gone, she lets the wrong one in again. And that leads to dancing, specifically the Butoh, or Dance of Darkness. Did anyone have avant-garde Japanese dance theater on their stuff I'm going to talk about in this video bingo cards? Didn't think so. To clarify, actor Lily Rose Depp studied this 1960s era Japanese art form, known for its grotesque imagery, to inform certain aspects of her performance. I'm not saying Ellen in universe somehow traveled to the future and learned it, although, hey, witches be magic. But now there's a bustle in my lilac bush. Which reminds me, on rewatch, I really enjoyed how Eggers used lilacs in place of garlic. Yes, garlic makes a few appearances, but visually, Eggers presents us with lilacs over and over. He bookends the movie with them. Thomas giving Ellen a bouquet of lilacs at the beginning, Professor von Franz placing them around Ellen's bed at the end. And then you got folks smelling them and talking about smelling them. What's the deal with the lilacs? I cracked open the old 1884 book Plant Lore, Legend, and Lyrics by Richard Folklore, which includes two interpretations of the flower. According to the Dictionary of Flowers, lilacs represent the first emotions of love. Fitting, but according to the ancient floral vocabulary, lilacs represent first troubles of love. Very fitting indeed. Granted, for a film set in 1838 Germany, I'm not sure Eggers would have relied on the so-called Victorian language of flowers for inspiration. Instead, I think he went with an older view of lilacs, which is that, on account of their strong fragrance, they were a popular funerary flower across Europe, including Eastern Europe. Those associations with funerary traditions would lead to expansion of lilac lore. Thus, today, modern witches promote and sometimes sell lilac, citing that the flower is good for psychic awareness, letting go, and mourning. As for the 7-pointed star, or heptagram, back in 1898, theologian J.A. Register wrote, quote, "The 7-pointed star has reference, it is said, to St. John's words in the Revelation. I beheld, and lo, in the midst of the throne and of the 4 beasts, and in the midst of the elders, stood a lamb as it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent forth into all the earth." End quote. In 1912, the astrologist Safariel called the 7-pointed star the star of the universe, defining it as, quote, "a star of 7 points, being drawn, the planetary bodies, the sun and moon, are placed round it in the Chaldean order, the sun being at the highest point." End quote. Today, in neo-pagan circles, the 7-pointed star is most commonly referred to as an elven star or fairy star. Some believe that the symbol allows for access to or communication with the fairy realm or otherworld, while others turn to the fairy star for protection or meditation. In Nosferatu, Ernoch and Orlok use it as a telephone. The implication perhaps being that both parties are tapping into this hidden realm, a magic internet, if you will. And if you're wondering how Orlok knows how to do all this, how as a vampire is he able to get this psychic network set up, just listen to this little novice translate for the abbess as she describes Orlok's whole deal. Quote, "A black enchanter he was in life. Solomonari, the devil preserved his soul that his corpse may walk again and blaspheme." End quote. A Solomonari is a wizard in Romanian mythology, specifically a wizard who rides a dragon. But the idea here is that Orlok is not just a vampire or Nosferatu, he was a freaking witch before that. And as punishment for his dark magic, the devil is keeping him alive. This iteration of Orlok somehow hews closer not to Bram Stoker's Dracula, whom the character was directly based on, but to Irish folklore's Abhartach, whom Dracula was based on. See, Abhartach is more than just a bloodthirsty dwarf tyrant chieftain, he is also a magician, or wizard. And the only way to stop him is to stab him in the heart with a wooden sword and bury him upside down. FYI, there's an Irish movie about Abhartach called Boys from County Hell. And in my video on Sinners, I theorized that the legendary Irish vampire helped inspire the villainous Remick. But I digress. I have a hunch that Robert Eggers turned to a particular book when doing research for Nosferatu's Abraham Van Helsing-esque character, the aforementioned Professor Albin Eberhard von Franz. The character of von Franz was largely an Eggers invention. He does not appear in the 1922 Nosferatu. Although it should be noted that the German actor Hardy von Francois played an uncredited role as a hospital doctor in that earlier film. And while we're on the subject of the old 22 Nosferatu cast and crew, I'd be remiss not to mention that the film's production designer was a one Mr. Albin Grau. Albin Grau was a German architect, artist, and, get this, practicing occultist who, according to Eggers, quote, probably did believe in the existence of vampires or psychic vampires. So when coming up with his Albin Eberhard von Franz character, Eggers tried to read and incorporate the same stuff Albin Grau had been reading. And I am 100% certain that included the 17th century grimoire, or Book of Spells, the Lesser Key of Solomon, aka the Lemmageddon. The Lemmageddon famously or infamously contains the Ars Goetia, instructions for summoning demons and evil spirits. Remember when von Franz says, quote, "In the name of Jehovah and by the power and dignity of these 3 names, Tetragrammaton, Anexahexaton, Primamatum, cast thee, O thou disobedient spirit, Nosferatu, into the lake of fire, there to remain until the day of doom and not to be remembered before the face of God, who shall come to judge the quick and the dead in the world with fire." Yeah, that's a nearly verbatim excerpt from the Ars Goetia's Greater Curse, with von Franz replacing the name placeholder, which coincidentally is the capital letter N, with Nosferatu. Furthermore, when von Franz says, quote, "I command you, hearken to my voice, by the protection of Shamuel, Haniel, and Zadkiel, impart your speech unto me," end quote. Well, I mean, there he's shouting out 3 archangels who, according to angelology, represent love, joy, and kindness, respectively. Still, it's noteworthy that the names of all 3 of these archangels also appear in the Ars Goetia. But of course, von Franz's next 3 name drops in the scene are the most intriguing of all. Quote, "In the name of Eligos, Orabas and Asmoday, impart your speech unto me. At this point, von Franz has gone full dark magic mode, because Eligos, Orabas, and Asmoday are demons. Our dude is invoking demons, all three of whom are well documented and defined in the Ars Goetia's list of chief spirits. And I quote, Eligos, the 15th spirit in order is Eligos, a great duke, and appeareth in the form of a goodly knight, carrying a lance, an ensign, and a serpent. He discovereth hidden things, and knoweth things to come, and of wars, and how the soldiers will or shall meet. He causeth the love of lords and great persons. He governeth 60 legions of spirits. Orabas, the 55th spirit is Orabas. He is a great and mighty prince, appearing at first like a horse, but after the command of the exorcist, he putteth on the image of a man. His office is to discover all things past, present, and to come, also to give dignities and prelacies, and the favor of friends and foes. He giveth true answers of divinity and of the creation of the world. He is very faithful unto the exorcist, and will not suffer him to be tempted of any spirit. He governeth 20 legions of spirits. Asmoday. The 32nd spirit is Asmoday, or Asmoday. He is a great king, strong and powerful. He appeareth with 3 heads, whereof the first is like a bull, the second like a man, and the third like a ram. He hath also the tail of a serpent, and from his mouth issues flames of fire. His feet are webbed like those of a goose. He sitteth upon an infernal dragon, and beareth in his hand a lance with a banner. He giveth the ring of virtues. He teacheth the arts of arithmetic, astronomy, geometry, and all handcrafts absolutely. He giveth true and full answers unto thy demands. He maketh one invincible. He showeth the place where treasures lie, and guardeth it. He amongst the legions of Aemon governeth 72 legions of spirits inferior. End quote. Okay, I know that's a lot of demonology to digest, but let's back up to that part we just heard about the demon Asmoday sitting on a dragon. I don't think it makes sense that Orlok is this demon, but maybe back when he was doing witchy stuff, he summoned the dragon-riding demon Asmoday and hence became associated with dragons himself. That would really give some extra folkloric significance to the name Dracula, which means son of the dragon. Also, the notion that Asmoday can, quote, maketh one invincible is perhaps the very thing that caused the devil to curse Orlok. After taking notice of Orlok calling on the demon to make him invincible, the devil maybe thought, oh yeah, you want to live forever? I'm gonna make you a walking corpse. Am I reaching? Honestly, not that much this time, I don't think. Another little folkloric detail I enjoyed was Ernok's Codex of Secrets, although Count Orlok was no doubt the book's original owner. The Codex is a likely nod to the aforementioned Ars Goetia and the broader Lemmageddon, but that illustration of the Nosferatu on top of that woman, that reminded me immediately of the conception of Merlin, an illustration from a French 15th century Lancelot Grail cycle manuscript. It depicts Merlin's mom and a demon, specifically an incubus, and that's all I have to say about that. Speed round. Bram Stoker used the term Nosferatu in his 1897 novel Dracula precisely two times. Etymologically, this vampire synonym might have a Greek origin, nosophorus, disease-bearing. That certainly fits. Then again, Nosferatu might also stem from the Romanian word nesufertul, meaning the insufferable one, which is mwah. Regardless, at some point in 1922, director F.W. Murnau and screenwriter Henrik Galeen decided that they wouldn't be acquiring the rights to Dracula from the Stoker estate for their silent film adaptation of the novel. Thus, they set it 6 decades earlier and renamed the characters and the locations, gearing them toward a German audience. Finally, the filmmakers dubbed their creation Nosferatu, a Symphony of Horror. And yes, there is another film, 2000's Shadow of the Vampire, which fictionalizes and sensationalizes the events of the making of that 1922 film. And notably, in The Shadow of the Vampire, Willem Dafoe plays a heavily fictionalized version of actor Max Schreck, who in turn played Count Orlok in the original Nosferatu. Speaking of callbacks to previous films, Ellen's cat in the 2024 version of Nosferatu is named Greta, a reference to Greta Schroeder, who played Ellen in the 1922 film. And it probably goes without saying that in popular culture, cats have become the favorite pet companions of witches. But the inclusion of Greta the cat goes even deeper than that, because the Nosferatu is a plague. Literally, he shows up in town with a bunch of rats. rats. And it's widely believed that the bubonic plague, which devastated Europe in the 14th century, was spread by fleas on rats. Cats kill rats. And thus, if you were a cat lady or cat gentleman in the Middle Ages, you were less likely to get infected. Having an army of cats constantly prowling your home meant flea-ridden rats weren't getting in. But people at the time weren't able to put all of those pieces together. So when they saw, for example, an old cat lady doing perfectly fine while everyone around her was dying of plague, they assumed some dark magic must have been afoot and labeled her a witch. Hence the association between cats and witches. As for Nosferatu's folklorical accuracy score, I don't see any way around it. I have to give this one an A+. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment, "I am an appetite, nothing more." If you want to vote on the topic of my next video, make sure you are subscribed to the Folklore and Film channel and that notifications are turned on. As always, my name is Iele Neverday, editor of the Celtic fantasy short story anthology Neon Druid. Thanks for coming out.